I find that when you can put a dollar sign next to the metric, that's what clarifies the thinking.
So let's come back to something you were talking about, you sort of started talking about earlier, which is like a single metric. So how would you recommend or advise leadership teams identify the single metric that unlocks profitable scaling for them?
So let me just define it first, because
Uh-huh.
that's really important to how the system I use to think about this works. So we think about an X factor decision metric. So this is at the top level, but you could do this for any point
And,
A to
and
B
you
that
and you
somebody's
wrote an entire
optimizing.
book about this,
Yeah, I did. It's called
which
X
will in
factor optimization. Yeah.
the comments.
I pulled it off market to kind of retool it for AI. We can link to it. But
Cool.
the X factor decision metric is some number with a dollar sign next to it
Uh-huh.
that must be changed for us to increase the speed toward our goals. So, and that's the critical factor. I find that when you can put a dollar sign next to the metric, that's what clarifies the thinking up and down the chain across the board. Elon is famous for doing this. He looked at what a rocket cost, he looked at the raw materials, and then he said, hey, we need to make the cost per rocket this number, right?
Uh-huh.
So like a tenth, maybe the materials cost 2% of the final cost of the rocket. He calls it the idiot index. So he was saying, hey, we should be able to get it from $1 billion down to 100 million, right? Per launch.
Right.
In a normal business that's dependent on a CRM, it's probably something like cost per lead, cost per acquisition, dollars per X. Like you start there. Our real secret sauce was the core idea of X factor optimization is there's some number a little bit after cost per lead or cost per acquisition, but before lifetime value. That is likely the core key clear driver of that business. So in businesses with subscriptions, one example I use is it's the cost per new subscriber, backing out all the cost of acquisition and all the initial revenue in the first 30 days. How far ahead or behind are we? Which then, because that's early enough to measure frequently, but deep enough into the customer journey for them to do something about regularly to move the needle. So first thing, X factor decision metric, it's a number with a dollar sign next to it. It's usually a cost per or revenue per. Then what you act on every day is a needle move metric. So what percentage sign has the most outsized impact on that number? So if you use the simple example of cost per acquisition, then your needle move metric might be conversion rate. So it's just about giving people what's your dollar sign, what's your percent sign, and what's your number sign. So use the number sign to elevate your thinking. We're getting 300 leads right now. How would we go to 3,000? Well, we can't go to 3,000 because what dollar sign is holding us back? Cost per lead is it really too high? That's the crazy thing. Very often, if you ask enough of these questions, you'll find that they're just not measuring. Like that's the best thing I can find for somebody. Hey, did you know that actually these numbers work and you could just turn up the ad budget? You could just add 5 more people to the outbound team and go harder. They just think that the $500 per lead or the whatever per opportunity doesn't work. And if that's really the case, then it's just a matter of breaking it down deeper from there. But the magic of all this is, hey, plug the data into AI and ask these questions. Ask it, where am I constrained? And you can't go ask a normal model that because it doesn't have your business data.
Which is what Cerebro Plum does.
Or I would even say, like, if people just want to experiment with it to get more conviction, right? You can export some data from anything and feed it to the LLMs. I mean, yes, I have a bent on how to solve this easier, faster for people, but to get some initial conviction and some traction, pull any data set out of any tool you use and analyze it and ask it, hey, my goal is this. Help me figure out in dollar signs, give me a cost per or revenue per to measure our efficiency here and tell me what I should focus on.
Yeah.